There was a time when the neon glow of Las Vegas was a promise of endless nights, cheap thrills, and that one lucky spin that could change your life forever. But now, in 2025, that same glow feels different. It's dimmer, colder, a cruel reminder of the city that once was. The Strip, which used to be packed shoulder to shoulder with people from every corner of the globe, now just echoes with a haunting silence. Casinos are bolting their doors. 4,300 jobs have vanished in a single month. And the very people who kept this city breathing are now being forced from their homes. Many are now left to sleep in tents, just steps away from million-dollar roulette tables they can no longer serve at. What was once America's playground is now a grim, cautionary tale of broken promises and economic ruin. Behind the glittering facades and fading jackpot signs, a nightmare is unfolding, pulling down everyone in its path. Tourists, business owners, and most of all, the working class folks who are now struggling just to find their next meal. The city that was built on dreams is now systematically destroying them. Is this just the fall of Vegas? Or are we watching the first domino topple in a much darker future for America? Tonight, we're stepping into the shadows of Sin City. We'll uncover how empty casinos, mass layoffs, and a devastating homeless crisis are rewriting the destiny of Las Vegas, and why its downfall could be a chilling warning for the entire nation. For decades, tourism wasn't just part of Las Vegas. It was its very heartbeat. It pumped billions of dollars into the veins of its casinos, hotels, and restaurants. But in 2025, that heart is beginning to fail. Just listen to this. Official data from Harry Reid International Airport shows that nearly 1 million flights heading to Vegas were canceled in just 2 months. That isn't just a number representing missed vacations. It's the sound of an entire ecosystem, one that depended on a constant river of visitors completely unraveling. Even more terrifying is the drop in Canadian tourists, down by almost 20%. That's a massive hit, especially when you realize Canada has always made up 1/5 of all international visitors to Vegas. The reasons for this are like a set of dominoes, one falling right after the other. You've got rising visa restrictions and unpredictable border tariffs, and then there's the relentless climb of airfare, creating a wall that makes a trip to America's playground feel out of reach. But the real twist of the knife is coming from the city itself. Tourists are saying they feel like they're being bled dry by hidden costs, resort fees, parking charges, and meals with shocking price tag. They're seeing insane markups on everything from a bottle of water to show tickets. The city that sold itself as an affordable escape now feels more like a sophisticated trap designed to empty your wallet at every opportunity. And throwing gasoline on the fire is the new strategy from the biggest casino CEOs. They've gone whale hunting, focusing all their energy on the ultra wealthy. They're chasing that top 20% of guests who bring in nearly 80% of the profits. But in doing so, they've completely turned their backs on the middle-class visitors who built the legend of Vegas. The families from the Midwest, the bachelor parties, the everyday gamblers who used to flock here for cheap buffets and a good time at the slots. Now they feel completely unwelcome in a city that only caters to billionaires and high rollers. The fallout came swiftly. In a desperate bid to win people back, hotels along the Strip slashed their rates by 25 to 50%. They even got rid of those once sacred resort fees that had angered travelers for so long. And yet, all those discounts barely made a difference. Planes are still flying with empty seats. Entire towers of hotels sit dark in the night. And the casino floors, once buzzing with energy, now echo with an eerie, unsettling stillness. You see, tourists might accept higher prices in other places, but once you break their trust, you rarely get it back. The real tragedy is that while visitors can always pick a new destination, Los Angeles, Miami, Mexico, or even Dubai, Las Vegas can't just pack its bags and move. Its entire economy is chained to tourism. And when that lifeblood drains away, there's absolutely nothing to replace it. The so-called entertainment capital of the world is learning a very harsh lesson. When the dream you're selling dies for the customer, the entire machine grinds to a halt. And when the tourists stopped coming, the silence on the casino floors quickly spread to the break rooms, the locker areas, and the time clocks. In just 1 month, 4,300 jobs simply vanished. These aren't just numbers on a page. These are real lives, completely upended. Rent payments being missed and families being forced to make impossible choices about food, utilities, and basic survival. For thousands of these workers, the job that once represented stability, their shot at the American dream, has now become the one bet in Vegas they are guaranteed to lose. Think about the casino employees who poured their lives into serving drinks, tidying up hotel rooms, or dealing cards. Now they're just stuck in limbo, on call, their eyes glued to their phones, praying for a shift that feels like it's never going to come. Can you believe it? Some of them will go for entire weeks without a single call. And their paychecks? They've dwindled down to almost nothing, to a point where putting food on the table has become a luxury they can't afford. And for the ones who do manage to clock in, the struggle is just as real. The tips they counted on to survive have plummeted by 30 to 50%. It's simple math. Fewer guests means far fewer people reaching into their pockets. I heard a cocktail server lay it all out, and her honesty was just gut-wrenching. She said, "The bills just keep stacking up, and I honestly have no idea how I'm going to feed my family anymore." You see, these closures are tearing the heart out of places that were once the anchors of the community. Take the Poker Palace, for instance, a real North Las Vegas institution, been there since 1974. Well, they just shut their doors for good, and just like that, over 120 jobs vanished, along with decades of memories. For the people who work there forever, it was so much more than just a paycheck. It was a part of who they were, and it was brutally ripped away by a cold, impersonal press release. All it said was that the property was now in the hands of some company called Truckee Gaming LLC. And while this whole restructuring move probably saved the skins of the executives and investors, the folks who actually ran the tables and cooked the food, they were left with absolutely nothing but a pink slip. This chasm, this massive gap between corporate survival and the complete collapse of the workforce, that's the story of the new Las Vegas. You've got CEOs on TV bragging about saving billions of dollars through their clever restructuring, through consolidation, through automation. But let's be clear, every dollar they saved was paid for by the very people who made this city sparkle in the first place. From the outside, Vegas still looks like a beacon of neon brilliance. But if you live here, if you're on the inside, you know the light has gone out. And the fallout from all this? It's hitting everyone, and it's hitting hard. You have to understand, every job lost isn't just one less paycheck. It's a family thrown into absolute crisis. Suddenly, they're staring at utility bills they can't pay, slashing their grocery list to the bone, and watching mortgage payments go unpaid. Some people have had to give up the cars they were still paying for, practically overnight. The very thing that was a symbol of their hard work has become just another repossessed burden. Then you have others who are forced to ration their meals, trying to make 1 week's worth of groceries last for 2. And you know who goes hungry? The parents. Always. Just so their kids can have something to eat. For these service workers, the despair is just so much deeper because they know they're the ones who built this city's global reputation. They were the ones keeping the drinks flowing at 3 in the morning. The ones who made sure every room was sparkling before a guest ever set foot inside. The ones who filled the strip with energy while the desert baked at 115 degrees. And now those same people are being treated like they're disposable. Just another line item to be slashed in the relentless pursuit of profit. It makes you think about the American dream. The one they plaster on billboards, the one you're supposed to win with a lucky hand. Here, it's become this twisted, cruel joke. Because the more money the corporations save, the less the ordinary folks have to survive. In this town, the winners and losers aren't being decided at the roulette wheel anymore. No, they're being decided in boardrooms where executives sit in comfort while the very people who carried this city on their backs are shoved closer and closer to the brink of homelessness. And for thousands of families, that brink isn't some distant threat. It's the next chapter in this living nightmare. If the job losses were the first crack in the city's glittering facade, then this explosion in homelessness is the whole thing crumbling down, spilling right out onto the strip for everyone to see. Officially, the Southern Nevada Homeless Continuum of Care reported nearly 8,000 homeless individuals in Clark County as of early 2025. But you just have to walk down Las Vegas Boulevard to know that number doesn't even begin to tell the whole story. Because beyond those official tallies, you have the hidden homeless, the ones sleeping in their broken down cars, seeking shelter in drainage tunnels, or living under the highway overpasses. These are people who used to work inside the very casinos that are now trying to run them off their property. The irony is just staggering. In a city with more than 150,000 hotel rooms, thousands of people can't find a single safe place to lay their heads. You have families who once cleaned those very rooms or served you at the buffet, now huddled together in camps pieced together from old wooden pallets, tarps, and whatever scrap metal they can find. And these fragile little shelters just bake under that relentless 115-degree desert sun. It's surreal. Just a few feet away from multi-million-dollar roulette tables and opulent luxury suites, you see these long lines of tents stretching down the sidewalks. It's turned the entertainment capital of the world into a massive, undeniable contradiction. You've got the glow of the neon on one side of the street and the depths of human despair on the other. And when you look past the numbers, the personal stories will just break your heart. I heard about a single mom. She used to spend her days cleaning hotel rooms. Now she's trying to raise her kids in a tent just off Tropicana Avenue. Think of the shuttle bus driver, the one who used to ferry tourists from the airport. He's now sleeping in his van, jobless and falling behind. And the veteran, who always believed his country would have his back, is now just wondering if he'll make it through another night on the Strip. These aren't just strangers drifting into the city, you see. They are the very soul of this place. The people who once kept Las Vegas breathing. The crisis is so out in the open now that it's reshaping the city's image by the minute. On platforms like TripAdvisor and Yelp, the reviews are flooded with complaints about people aggressively asking for money, the unavoidable smell of waste, and fights breaking out over a place to sleep in the exact spots where tourists used to crowd for photos. As one traveler bluntly wrote, "I couldn't enjoy my vacation at all. The atmosphere was just chaos. The Strip felt unsafe, and honestly, I left early." Even the giants, resorts like the Flamingo and the Luxor, have been forced to pour more money into security and post warnings, telling their guests not to walk outside after 10 p.m. And for the small business owners, the crisis cuts so much deeper. Restaurant and souvenir shop owners right on the Strip are saying their profits have been slashed by more than half since the tent camps went up nearby. One shopkeeper admitted with a chilling kind of honesty, "Customers see the tents and they just keep walking. If this continues, I know that one day I might be in one of those tents myself." It's a merciless spiral. The more people who end up on the streets, the more tourists it frightens away. Fewer tourists means businesses get hurt, and those weakened businesses have to let more employees go, who then end up joining the ranks of the homeless. This isn't a problem hidden in the neglected corners of downtown anymore. It's spreading like a wildfire across the most famous and valuable stretch of real estate in America. The Strip, once sold as an oasis of pure luxury and escape, now serves as the stage for one of the fastest growing humanitarian crises in the entire country. In just 3 years, homelessness has exploded by 56%. And even the city's own tourism managers are admitting the problem is completely out of control. This isn't just an eyesore we're talking about. It's a vortex, and it's threatening to suck the entire economic foundation of Las Vegas down with it. When the tourists can no longer separate the fantasy from the cold, hard reality, when the neon dream gets interrupted by the sight of families in tents, the whole illusion shatters. And in a city built entirely on illusion, once that shattering begins, it's almost impossible to stop. The Strip's lights are still burning, but in their shadows, an army of forgotten workers is just struggling to survive. What all began with empty casinos and lost jobs has now spilled out onto the sidewalks, becoming a homeless crisis right in the heart of America's playground. And the next chapter of this story shows that when despair is left to grow unchecked, the danger doesn't just stay in the shadows. It starts to reshape the very streets themselves. As the number of homeless camps swelled all across Las Vegas, another dark shadow began to stretch over the city: crime. If you look at the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program, Nevada saw a 7% spike in serious violent crimes in 2023. That's a figure analysts are directly connecting to the city's collapsing tourism economy and the desperation of all those people who were left behind. The Strip used to be a place where tourists felt untouchable, wrapped in a bubble of lights, crowds, and cameras. Now, those same avenues that once promised a world of safety feel more like unpoliced battlegrounds. The link couldn't be clearer. When workers lose their jobs, their homes, and then all their hope, the risk of petty theft, of conflict, of violence just skyrockets. The folks living in North Las Vegas will tell you they don't even feel comfortable walking their own streets after dark anymore. One shop owner told me he closes his doors hours earlier than he used to, all because of the fights breaking out nearby. That familiar evening buzz from neighborhood diners and grocery stores has been replaced by a heavy, anxious silence. broken only by the sound of a distant siren or a shouting match spilling out from the sidewalks. The impact on tourism has been immediate, and it has been absolutely brutal. Travel sites are now littered with reviews from shaken visitors, people describing being harassed on the strip, witnessing fistfights near bus stops, or feeling unsafe even when they were in the middle of a crowd. Tourists aren't just avoiding a few dangerous corners anymore. They're starting to avoid the city altogether. And for a place like Las Vegas, where image is absolutely everything, this damage to its reputation might be even more destructive than the economic collapse itself. Social scientists have been warning that the crime in Las Vegas isn't just a matter of statistics. It's the visible symptom of a much deeper social breakdown. Communities that were once bound together by steady jobs and shared prosperity are now fracturing under the crushing weight of poverty. Longtime residents talk about their neighbors just disappearing overnight. Entire families just gone. People just leaving their apartments behind, and whole blocks that were once buzzing with life now feel like ghost towns. That kind of fear, it just spreads. Folks who live here are staying behind locked doors, and tourists are just canceling their plans. And the small businesses, they're watching fewer and fewer customers walk in with every month that goes by. At the same time, the rumor mill is churning, and stories that nobody can prove are spreading like a wildfire. You hear tales of these tent camps becoming hubs for shady dealings or places where trouble brews, and it just rattles everyone, from locals to tourists. Whether the stories are true or not, in a city that's already fighting for its soul, what people believe is happening can be just as destructive as the truth. The city government has tried to step in, sending out more police patrols and setting up security checkpoints. But all that does is treat the symptoms. It doesn't cure the disease. The real issue, the one that runs deep, is about trust. The trust between the people and their own city. The trust between tourists and the perfect getaway they were promised. The trust between employers and the workers who built their fortunes. And when trust disappears, fear rushes in to fill the void. And here in Las Vegas, fear travels at the speed of light. Every single headline about an attack, every viral video of a brawl on Fremont Street, every online review warning people about the danger, it all just chips away at that carefully built fantasy that has been the lifeblood of Sin City for decades. We're now stuck in a dangerously predictable cycle. People struggling financially leads to a feeling of insecurity. That insecurity scares away the tourism. With no tourists, the jobs dry up. With no jobs, the poverty gets even worse. Each turn of this wheel just tightens the spiral, pulling Las Vegas deeper into this crisis. What once felt like a paradise built for entertainment now teeters on the brink of becoming a cautionary tale. A city where all the glamour has been swallowed by fear, and where the night doesn't feel safe anymore, not even under all those neon lights. So if Las Vegas, the city that famously never sleeps, is now in a battle just to keep its own streets secure, what kind of hope is there for the smaller towns all across America? This next part of the story isn't just about whether Vegas itself can pull through. It's asking if the American dream itself can survive in a place where despair has already torn up the rulebook. When you hear locals and analysts start to whisper that Las Vegas is becoming the Detroit of the West, it's not just some cheap insult. It's a comparison that should send a chill down your spine. Detroit, you see, was once the absolute pride of American industry, the world's undisputed capital of the automobile. At its very peak in the mid-20th century, the city was home to nearly 1.88 million residents and stood as a global icon of prosperity. But Detroit built its entire identity on a single foundation, the auto industry. And when that industry came crashing down under the weight of globalization, automation, and just plain bad planning, the city lost so much more than just jobs. It lost its very soul. By 2020, Detroit's population had plummeted by over 60%, leaving behind a landscape of abandoned neighborhoods, hollowed-out factories, and a reputation for hopelessness that has taken decades to even begin to mend. Las Vegas is now standing on a very similar cliff edge, but instead of cars, its single pillar is tourism and entertainment. Almost every single industry in this valley, from the restaurants to the taxi services, from the gift shops to the local real estate market, it all hinges on that constant flow of visitors pouring into the casinos. And if you look at the numbers from the US Census Bureau, the average income for households in the service industry here in Las Vegas fell by almost 6% between 2021 and 2024. For a community that lives and breathes on every shift, every tip, and every hour of overtime, a decline like that is so much more than a statistic. It's a blade cutting into their ability to survive. The risk couldn't be clearer. When a city bets everything on one industry, a single downturn can set off a catastrophic landslide. Empty casinos don't just mean lost paychecks. They mean fewer taxis are needed to run to and from the airport. Fewer people are out buying late-night meals, and fewer tourists are spending money in the local stores. Every single layer of the economy is intertwined, and they all begin to collapse together. And all of a sudden, that foundation that seemed so unshakable starts to look as fragile as a pane of glass. The warning signs are absolutely everywhere. Streets that used to vibrate with nightlife now sit in an eerie silence. Entire neighborhoods, communities that were once powered by the paychecks of casino workers are now fighting just to keep their grocery stores and schools from shutting down. For so many of the residents here, that comparison to Detroit isn't just about the economy. It's about their identity. Detroit used to be called the Motor City. But eventually, that name became a tragic monument to a past that was gone forever. Is Las Vegas destined for the same fate? Will its dazzling nickname, Sin City, just be remembered as a hollow echo of neon dreams that flickered and died? And yet, in the middle of all this gloom, you can hear some whispers of hope. A few major corporations are actually trying to rewrite this city's story, planting the seeds of new industries here in Nevada. Amazon, for example, has been expanding its logistics network in the area, promising to bring thousands of new warehouse and distribution jobs. Up near Reno, Tesla's Gigafactory is transforming northern Nevada into a powerhouse for clean energy and batteries, sparking whispers of a new tech corridor stretching right across the desert. Look, these projects won't magically replace the billions from casinos overnight, but they are a sign, a glimmer of a future where Las Vegas isn't shackled to a single roll of the dice. The real challenge is whether this city can learn from Detroit's tragic story before it's too late. Detroit was so dependent on one thing, it didn't see the end coming until it was already over. Las Vegas still has a moment to pivot, but that window of opportunity gets smaller with every layoff, every shuttered door, every dream that dies in the desert. If the city doesn't branch out now, sure, the neon on the strip will keep glowing for the tourists, but underneath that shiny surface, the city itself will be nothing but a hollow shell. So it's no longer a question of whether Las Vegas is vulnerable. The question now is whether it has the courage to rebuild itself before this downward spiral can't be stopped. Because if a city that was literally built to defy the desert can fall prey to its own one-track mind, then that nickname, the Detroit of the West, stops being a warning. It becomes a reality. The question haunting Las Vegas today isn't just about survival. It's about a complete reinvention. Can a city built entirely on tourism, casinos, and pure entertainment change fast enough to avoid Detroit's fate? We're already seeing the short-term fixes appear. Some hotels have started quietly waiving those resort fees, the very same charges they once swore were completely untouchable. Others are trying out discounted rooms and special package deals, hoping to lure back the middle-class families who made this town famous to begin with. You're seeing more security patrols on the Strip, and city officials are scrambling to control the image of homelessness by moving camps away from where the tourists can see them. But these are just band-aids, aren't they? Temporary distractions for a city whose very foundations are cracking. The real solution lies in building a much broader economy, and according to a 2023 Brookings Institution report, Nevada invests less than 0.5% of its GDP in research and development, which is one of the lowest rates in the entire nation. That single statistic reveals both a huge weakness and an incredible opportunity. For decades, Vegas has sold itself as nothing more than a playground, but the city has other assets, things that could attract industries a world away from gambling. We're talking about a young workforce, land that's cheap compared to the coastal cities, and a perfect location connecting the western United States to Mexico and even Asia. And some big companies have already started to notice. Google just announced it's expanding its data centers here in Nevada, promising thousands of high-tech jobs that could truly anchor the state's future. Amazon's logistics hubs are ramping up, offering steady work that has nothing to do with blackjack tables or roulette wheels. And beyond just boxes and code, there's this massive untapped potential in renewable energy. With all this wide open desert and endless sunshine, Nevada could set itself up as a leader in solar power, not just for its own needs, but to sell that power to other states. On a human level, though, fixing the economy has to go hand in hand with fixing the housing crisis. There's this housing first idea, where you give people shelter before trying to fix their other problems. If Las Vegas were to get behind similar ideas, working with private developers, using empty land, and combining public and private money, it could save thousands more workers from falling into that vicious cycle of stress and despair. But a rebirth takes more than new buildings. It takes a new vision. For far too long, Las Vegas has sold itself as an illusion, a place where reality gets put on hold and money is supposed to buy you dreams. That illusion just might not be enough anymore. To truly reinvent itself, the city has to send a whole new message to the world. Las Vegas is not just about gambling. It's about innovation, resilience, and real opportunity. That means trading roulette tables for research labs, slot machines for startups, and swapping neon illusions for sustainable industries that can actually carry this city into the next century. The danger, of course, is that change always seems to come too slowly in cities that have gotten comfortable in their own skin. Detroit clung to the auto industry until the factories fell silent. Will Las Vegas cling to its casinos until the neon finally burns out? All the pieces for a new game are already on the table. Technology, logistics, renewable energy, housing reform. But the city itself has to decide. Will it roll the dice on its own future? Or will it keep playing a game it's already losing? For Las Vegas, the stakes have never been higher. Reinvention is no longer just an option, it's a matter of survival. The city faces a choice: keep chasing the high rollers while turning its back on the middle class. Or it can start building a foundation solid enough to survive the next inevitable storm. Because if it doesn't, the Detroit of the West will stop being a warning. It will become a prophecy fulfilled. Las Vegas always sold us the fantasy of second chances, a place where fortunes were made overnight and failure was just one spin away from a comeback. But here in 2025, that dazzling illusion has been shattered. We're talking about empty casinos, shuttered hotels, and 4,300 jobs just gone. And the nearly 8,000 people pushed into homelessness? They aren't just statistics anymore. They are the new, harsh reality of a city that once called itself untouchable. This nightmarish spiral goes far beyond the money lost on the casino floor. It's about the families being left in the dust, the communities unraveling at the seams. It's about the creeping fear that America's playground has become its most potent cautionary tale. And that comparison to Detroit, it's so much more than a metaphor. It's a flashing red light. Any city that bets its entire future on a single industry is always one downturn away from complete disaster. Detroit failed to change its game until it was far too late. All that was left were ruins where opportunity once bloomed. Las Vegas still has a fighting chance, but only if it dares to make a radical shift, investing in tech, logistics, and renewable energy, and in affordable housing to build a foundation far more real than any neon illusion could ever be. The story of Las Vegas isn't over. Think about New York in the 1970s, a city that clawed its way back from the edge of bankruptcy. Vegas could still find a way to rewrite its own ending, but you can hear it in the silence. The clock is ticking. So, will this city become America's next incredible comeback story? Or will it go down in the history books as another dream that simply collapsed under its own weight? That answer doesn't just depend on Vegas itself, but on how all of us respond to the deep cracks now showing in one of our most iconic cities. Because if a paradise built in the desert can fall, the real question becomes, which American dream is going to be the next to fade away?